the ideas about Omar from the perspective of Rogan, and then um, who did we do before that? So there was Rogan, and there was no, Crystal Ball and Saga were with Rogan, but there was Richard Medhurst. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna now move on to something more.
Today's unemployment figures show the economy is moving in the right direction. The drop in unemployment is one more sign that the economy is strengthening.
Yeah, numbers are going up. Tim Pool. So this muckraking segment, this is all about holding journalists accountable. The muckrake holds journalists accountable. It holds corruption accountable, in fact. And so the question is, as we look at a Tim Pool excerpt on Matt Gaetz, and I'm going to leave this up and we'll come back to it. This idea that he's a journalist. Yeah, his occupation is a journalist. Oh, he went to school for it? No, let's look to the left here. Definitely not. He claims to be a journalist. So let's just look at his journalistic integrity as we go through this all. What is his journalistic integrity? How does it work? This is Matt Gaetz being interviewed by Tim Pool.
And when we talk about having a rational defense budget, we don't for a moment mean that we ought to surrender the high ground to China or limit the tools that our warfighters need. But maybe all this $100 billion we send to Ukraine ought to get a little more scrutiny than we have offered it. And that's what I think can at times unify the populist right and the populist left. And it's a constant theme on your show. And it's sad to me how rare that occurs, because there are things like surveillance policy, foreign policy that could bring together those elements. And they've become so strident in their desire to just wear the blue shirt that they actually don't represent some of the populist views that they once ran on.
When you came on last time, you mentioned potentially bringing on members of the squad or to have a conversation. And I'm always down for a conversation in that capacity, but I got to be honest, I don't find them to be genuine. I find them to be quite disingenuous. Notably today, I mentioned it several times in the show, AOC's mentioning of the Boston Children's Hospital.
Yeah, and so that, you got to think about that in the context of what they were doing during the McCarthy hearings, right? And I may continue if this comes up again, which I'm sure it will, because Gaetz seems he does seem to be very focused on this. He almost seems like a reverse Christian cinema, right? So when this comes up again, we'll definitely tie this into some other concepts that are related to it, right? Just mainly, and I said this in episode 3, the fact that the so-called alt-right or populist right, not populist, let's say, not even far right, but yeah, we could say far right, is somehow closer to the far left than either of them are to the center representatives of the other party. So that is to say, far right Republican is closer to a far left Democrat than they are to a far right Democrat. Right? When we think of the political spectrum as a Cartesian circle, maybe that's what we would surmise. So we'll continue to think about that. We'll how do we say it? We will watch that space, and we'll now just move on